Today we're going to talk about old school piston ring gaps, okay? So back in the day, whenever, nitrous systems first came out back in the mid 80s, and they were, you could buy them off the shelf, we blew a lot of pistons up. And the reason we blew pistons up wasn't because of piston design, wasn't because of the nitrous systems, it was because of the piston ring gaps that was in the engines that we were running, okay? Industry standard for any kind of ring back in the day was your bore times 4 thousandths. That's how much your ring gap should be, okay? So say a small block Chevy has a 4-inch bore times 4 thousandths, it should be your 16 thousandths gap. That's what it should be running factory or, safely, whatever. All right. Now, what happens is that when you put like any kind of power source, a blower, turbos, nitrous, whatever it is, you put something that induces more heat into the engines. Aluminum does not expand like steel does, and your rings are made out of steel. Okay. So steel swells when it gets hot. It grows, it gets bigger. Okay. So, and if you think about it, 16 thousandths is not much. It's about 3 sheets of paper. Okay. That's how much gap that they put them in to make them tight so that they don't, it was just, they were designed back in the day to be tight. Okay. The newer ones, the new pistons are designed to be looser. Longevity happens, like an LS these days can go 300, 400,000 miles if you keep the oil changed. Where old school small block Chevy at 80 to 100,000 miles, you were done. It was time for a rebuild because the rings were so tight that it scarred the cylinders, and if it scarred the cylinders, the ring started expanding. The metal against metal started doing their thing. So the piston rings got, used up. Now, when it comes to like, if you want to do, now this is not a bad start for a naturally aspirated, okay? This is actually probably a little looser than factory probably was back in the day, if I'm remember correctly. I think there was 10 thousandths, 11 thousandths, something like that. Okay, so 16 thousandths is a good start, all right? Have you guys heard yet? Uncle Buck's Garage is giving its first giveaway, which is this engine as it sits, all right? This is the one in the video with almost 700,000 views. So if you want to know what's in this, watch that video. Buy yourself a little bit of merch, and you're qualified. You just got to send me a screenshot of the purchase. Good luck, and have a good day. Now, you introduce nitrous into the whole mix. That ain't even close to enough, all right? Now, it doesn't sound like a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I like going 6 to 8 times. So 24 to 32 thousandths. That's not a lot. The comparison, that's double the 16th, but it's not a lot. It's really not a lot. It's 6 sheets of paper as opposed to 3 sheets of paper. I mean, it really isn't a lot difference. I mean, you're not going to have, it's not going to smoke like a freight train. It's not going to do anything detrimental. You might lose a horsepower because of the blow-by for that 16 thousandths. If you wanted to go that high, I'm going to run this new engine I'm going to build. I'm going to run it at 24 thousandths. Top ring. I'm going to run it at 32 thousandths second ring. And I'll explain why. Okay, so that's going to be what I'm going to shoot for. All right. Now I already put the pistons in this new engine, and they were less than 10 thousandths, out of the box. Okay, in the cylinder holes, 40 over, and even naturally aspirated, that's tight. So, if you hear anything in the background, he's filing rings as we speak. So under this, we're going to go to that 32 for the second ring, because the blow-by from the 24 comes through. It's not going to be as much heat, not as on the second ring, but we want anything that's going to like cause any issues to go out. All right. So we're going to go to 32 thousandths on the second ring, and we'll go to the 32 thousandths on the oiling ring. So the top ring is to hold it in place and not pop the piston top off. The second one is to let the pressure, if it needs to go someplace, have a little bit of an escape to go, so that it's a little bit of a safety net. Okay, I don't know if I'm using that analogy right, but that's kind of how we thought about it back in the day, was a safety net. So, and it's going to take you a whole afternoon, a whole day to do this, because it's tedious. Got to take it out, take the grinder to it, put it back in, check it with a feeler gauge, make sure, and you're trying to get as close as possible on all of them. And right now, like I said, we're running 25 thousandths on the top, and 30-ish, 31, 32 thousandths on the bottom, on the second ring. And we'll do the same 32 on the oil ring, like I was saying. And always deburr when you're using the piston ring filer on it. Always deburr the edges on it so you don't scar the cylinder when you put it in, when you first start it up. But it's a necessary evil if you're going to run any kind of boost. It just is. That's just the way it is. Now, a lot of people aren't going to agree with me on this. They aren't. But this is just what we learned back in the day through hard knocks and through bad things happening. And let me show you an example. Now, this is what happens when the rings have nowhere to go. All right. As you can see, that chunk has got pushed out. You can see the debris from the actual piston rings that came out of this piston because they put a plate system on it and they blew it up. All right. This was because this was put on a super tight ring gapped engine, and that piston ring had nowhere to go but out. That's what happens when they expand. They push together and they got nowhere to go but to start breaking pieces. And you can see all the little chunks and pieces that are impregnated on this aluminum of the actual rings themselves that came apart. But that is what happens when you don't have enough piston ring gap when you're running boost, nitrous, blowers, whatever it is. You're adding that heat, it's expanding faster than aluminum can handle, and then once them piston rings touch, they ain't going down. They're going up. And that's what breaks parts. So it's a completely different thing of like dropping a valve. It's nothing like dropping a valve. It's just, it when you see it after you've done it long enough. Well, we're going to continue this. The next video will be about putting the process of doing the piston rings and grinding and fitting and making sure everything is like it should be, and what you need to do in the process of just keeping everything straight, because you have to do each one of the 5 pieces on each one of the 8 pistons separately and get them the same. All right, tip of the day, if you want to make it easier on yourself, you put your ring filer on a piece of 2x4 and put it in a file. That gives you room to do what you need to do. Nice little hack, a couple of big screws, and trust me, it works. You'll enjoy doing it this way. Okay, now all of them have been done. The tops are all at 25 thousandths. The bottoms are all at 32 thousandths. All right. And these are all done too. So what you do, you just take your time. Like I said, you got them all numbered, and that's the hole they're going in, and that's the hole that the piston rings are done for. So you have to keep this all together. It's got to be organized, because if you put the wrong one, which in the wrong hole, then things just don't work out right. But all the top rings are within the thousandths. All the bottom rings are within the thousandths of each other. All the oiling rings are within a thousandths of each other. Okay, so now it's the process of, we aren't putting them on yet because we have to double check the clearances on the bearings for the rod bearings. But then after that's verified, then we get to put the rings on. And that'll be another video that you guys can check out. Like, share, subscribe, smash that button, hit that bell, tell your friends. Y'all have a great day, because a great day today could mean what? An even better day tomorrow with pistons that don't break with nitrous. Y'all be good.